the conversation no one prepared us for. If you're a man, chances are no one ever sat you down and explained women to you. Not really. Sure, you might have picked up bits of advice from friends, movies, or maybe even your father. But for most of us, what we learned about women was a mix of half-truths, outdated stereotypes, and flat-out misunderstandings. Then you grow up, you date, you get into relationships, and reality hits you like a freight train. You realize you weren't given the manual. Here's the truth: women aren't some mystery you'll never solve, nor are they the simplified cliché society tries to paint them as. They are complex, human, layered, just like you. And if no one told you that, if no one prepared you for how much depth there really is, you probably stumbled into a lot of avoidable pain. I know I did. That's why this conversation matters. Because once you start to understand what women really want, what they really feel, and what they expect from the men in their lives, everything changes. Your relationships shift. Your confidence grows. And instead of feeling like you're playing a guessing game, you start actually connecting. So let's break down the lessons no one bothered to teach us but every man needs to hear. 1. The myth versus reality of women. One of the biggest mistakes men make is believing the myths. Growing up, we hear all kinds of nonsense. Women only want guys with money. They're impossible to understand. They're all the same. These stereotypes aren't just wrong, they're damaging. They create a lens that blinds you to who women actually are. The reality is that women are individuals. Just as no two men are identical, no two women are either. Yes, there are patterns, emotional needs, tendencies, shared pressures, but when you reduce women to a single category, you fail to see them as human beings. And when you fail to see them as human beings, you fail at connecting with them. If someone had told me earlier that women aren't these one-dimensional creatures but layered people with dreams, fears, strengths, and struggles, I would have approached relationships differently. Instead of trying to figure them out, I would have tried to know them. That's the shift every man needs to make: stop clinging to the myth and start engaging with the reality. 2. Emotional intelligence is power. Here's something that rarely gets taught to men: emotional intelligence is a superpower. Most of us were raised to think toughness meant keeping emotions bottled up, acting unbothered, and never showing weakness. The problem is, women don't want a robot, they want a man they can actually connect with. Women notice when you lack self-awareness. They notice when you can't express yourself beyond anger or silence. And over time, it erodes trust. Emotional intelligence doesn't mean crying at every movie. It means being able to identify your feelings, communicate them clearly, and handle the emotions of others with empathy. If someone had told me earlier that developing emotional intelligence would make me not only a better partner but also a stronger man in every area of life, I would have invested in it immediately. Jobs, friendships, family, it all gets better when you master this. And with women, it's a game changer. Because nothing is more attractive than a man who can stay grounded, understand her feelings, and respond in a way that makes her feel seen. 3. Respect is the foundation, not a bonus. Too many men treat respect like it's optional, something they give when they feel like it. But here's the thing, without respect, nothing else matters. Not love, not attraction, not even chemistry. If a woman feels disrespected, whether through your words, your actions, or even your silence, it leaves a crack in the foundation that only grows over time. Respect shows up in the little things. Listening when she speaks. Valuing her time as much as your own. Not belittling her opinions. Respect doesn't mean agreeing with everything, but it does mean treating her perspective as worthy. And the truth is, women can sense disrespect before you even realize you're giving it. What I wish someone had told me is that respect isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about actively showing value. Every woman wants to feel that the man she's with sees her as equal in dignity, worth, and humanity. When you understand that, you stop seeing respect as a box to check and start seeing it as the core of real love. For women want to be understood, not fixed. Here's a mistake almost every man makes. When a woman shares her problems, we jump straight to solutions. She tells you about a stressful day, and you immediately say, "Here's what you should do." You think you're helping, but what she actually wanted was for you to listen and understand. Women aren't always looking for problem solvers, they're looking for connection. They want to know you care enough to sit in their feelings with them, not rush to get rid of them. When you cut her off with a quick fix, you accidentally send the message that her feelings are inconvenient. That kills intimacy. If someone had told me this earlier, I would have saved myself countless arguments. The simple act of listening, really listening, without interrupting or trying to fix it is powerful. It builds trust, it builds closeness, and it makes her feel safe. And ironically, once she feels understood, she's more likely to welcome your solutions later. But first, she needs your ears, not your toolbox. 5. Attraction is more than looks. Yes, looks matter. But they're not the whole picture, and they're definitely not the lasting picture. Women are drawn to confidence, ambition, humor, and presence just as much, if not more, than physical appearance. A man who carries himself with purpose will outshine a man with perfect abs but no drive. What women find magnetic is energy. Do you walk into a room with self-assurance? Do you have passions that light you up? Do you carry yourself like you respect yourself? That's what creates attraction beyond the surface. Because in the end, no matter how good you look, if you lack depth, the spark dies quickly. If someone had told me this early on, I wouldn't have wasted so much time obsessing over my appearance. Yes, take care of your body. Yes, stay sharp. But don't confuse grooming with growth. What truly pulls women in is a man who knows who he is and refuses to shrink himself for anyone. 6. Boundaries and independence. Many men think love means merging your whole life with hers, but that's a trap. Healthy relationships require boundaries and independence. Women don't want a man who's glued to their side 24/7. They want a man with his own identity, his own passions, and his own life. When you lack boundaries, you lose yourself in the relationship. You become needy, clingy, or resentful because you've abandoned your independence. And here's the twist, women don't respect a man who has nothing going on outside of her. She wants to feel like she's with someone strong enough to stand alone but chooses to stand with her. If someone had told me this earlier, I would have stopped confusing dependency with devotion. True love isn't about losing yourself, it's about bringing your whole self into the relationship. That's what keeps the connection alive. 7. The silent weight women carry. Most men underestimate the invisible burdens women carry every day. From beauty standards pushed by society, to the constant pressure of balancing careers and family expectations, to safety concerns that men rarely even think about, women are walking around with an extra load on their shoulders. When you fail to recognize this, you unintentionally dismiss their struggles. A simple comment like, "Why are you stressing so much?" might sound harmless, but it ignores the very real pressures she's under. And when women feel like their pain is minimized, they shut down. If someone had told me earlier that part of loving a woman is understanding the weight she carries, I would have been a better partner. It's not about fixing all her struggles, it's about standing beside her, lightening the load when you can, and never pretending it isn't there. 8. Sex, intimacy, and communication. Here's another truth men don't hear enough: sex isn't just physical for women. Yes, it's about pleasure, but it's also about emotional safety, trust, and connection. When intimacy feels transactional, when it's about release instead of closeness, it creates distance instead of bonding. Many men were never taught to communicate about sex. We assume we should just know what to do. But the reality is, intimacy gets stronger the more you talk about it. Asking her what she likes, sharing what you like, being open to feedback, this is how sex becomes not just good, but deeply fulfilling. If someone had told me this earlier, I would have stopped treating sex like a performance and started treating it like a conversation. Women don't want perfect technique, they want presence, attentiveness, and connection. That's what creates real intimacy. 9. Partnership over possession. Too many men think relationships are about ownership. She's my girlfriend. She's my wife. But women aren't possessions, they're partners. The healthiest relationships are built on teamwork, not control. When you see your relationship as a partnership, you stop competing and start collaborating. Decisions become shared. Successes become mutual. And instead of trying to dominate, you focus on building something together. That's the kind of relationship that lasts. If someone had told me this earlier, I would have stopped seeing love as something to win and started seeing it as something to build. Because the truth is, no woman wants to feel controlled. She wants to feel chosen over and over again, not out of need, but out of genuine partnership. 10. The growth mindset in relationships. Here's the final lesson: relationships aren't static, they're alive. They require growth, change, and constant effort. Too many men think once you've got the girl, the work is done. But that's when the real work begins. Women evolve. Their needs, desires, and goals shift over time, just like yours do. If you're not willing to grow with her, the relationship stagnates. The couples who last aren't the ones who never fight, they're the ones who learn, adapt, and keep choosing each other through every season. If someone had told me this earlier, I would have understood that love isn't a finish line, it's a practice. Every day you show up, you choose to listen, to learn, and to become a better version of yourself. That's how you keep the fire alive. Conclusion: what every man needs to hear. So here it is, women don't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to have all the answers. What they need is for you to be real, respectful, emotionally intelligent, independent, and willing to grow. They need you to see them not as a puzzle to solve but as a partner to build with. If I could go back, I'd tell my younger self that women aren't this mystery that requires tricks or games. They're people who want connection, understanding, and love. The sooner you realize that, the sooner your relationships stop feeling like battles and start feeling like partnerships. And maybe, just maybe, that's the thing every man needs to hear. You don't need to figure women out, you just need to see them, respect them, and walk beside them. That's the truth I wish someone told me.